Nicole Huntsman here from moderncosmic.com. We have got our sun sign compatibility here on this video. If you know what sun sign means, fast forward to the timestamp you see or the description of the video. So in Western astrology, we take the year, the 12 calendar months, okay, and we divide them up according to the Earth's relationship to the sun. And this makes sense if you think back in the day when we were farmers. The movement of the sun, it's actually our movement, the tilt of our Earth relative to the sun and how it affects the seasons was very important. Springtime, time to plant, summertime to take care of and tend the fields, and of course fall time to harvest, and then winter was time to preserve the things that you had stored and make them last till spring again. Now, in astrology, we look at these 4 important dates that are repeatable, they happen every year, and they are the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the fall equinox, and the winter solstice, okay? We have our zodiac signs all set up according to these solar events. In the springtime, when we have our spring equinox, March 21st, this is that time of year when the equator of the Earth is facing the sun, directly, and the Earth is level, so to speak. So, we are on an axis and the Earth tilts. At this point in the year, we're level. That's why you can spin an egg and it will spin. Now, that's the beginning of the zodiac year, and really should be the beginning of our year. It would make sense to have the time when we go from winter, where we have more darkness than light, to the time when it's equal. We have an equal amount of daylight and equal amount of darkness, and then we move into the time of the year, the spring, when we have more light and less darkness each day, okay, until we hit the summer solstice, where we have the most light, more light, and less of the darkness. So with the zodiac, your sun sign falls during a month between those 4 events. So your sun sign is going to fall into one of these segments, okay? We've got the 12 months divided up into 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, according to those solar events. And then in each of those sections, we have 3 zodiac signs, okay? Your sun sign is important in that it shows your general life force. If you think of the sun is the star in our solar system. It is the mass, the giant mass, relative to us anyway, that is holding our solar system together. Without the sun, without our star, we wouldn't be here, and if something happened to our sun, we would all die, we would perish. We eat food that's made from the energy of the sun. We are literally made of sun, which is pretty cool. Someone's sun sign shows you the basic premise upon which their personality is built. It's like a canvas that we're going to paint upon. It doesn't have any paint on it yet, it's just the canvas. Is it wood? Is it metal? Is it canvas? Is it a panel? Is it round? Is it square? How big is it? How little is it? The zodiac sign will sort of illuminate, and it will explain and make granular sort of this very basic part of what we have to work with, okay, with the personality. So it's the first step in building, when you're looking at an astrology birth chart, it's the first thing you look at because you're going to build upon it, all right? And then all the brushstrokes come with the moon and all the angular houses and the planets and the aspects between the planets. That's when it becomes a beautiful picture. But until then, it's just you're one of the 12 zodiac signs. This is very general. Sun signs are general. It's a general vibe. You've got someone who's kind of more of a feeler, someone who's more of a thinker. But there are all different types of feelers and there are all different types of thinkers, okay? We get that granularity by looking at the entire birth chart and by putting the 2 people together, okay? You can have a feeler and a thinker get together and be really happy if they've got other things in their birth chart that make nice compatibility interaspects. If for some reason your sun signs don't get along well, let's say we've got someone who is, let's say we've got a Capricorn and an Aquarius, very different energies. Capricorn's conservative, Aquarius is an iconoclast and does their own thing. On the surface, sun sign wise, these 2 aren't going to jive perfectly. But if you look underneath, maybe they have moons that are both in water, and it gives them an emotional warmth, or it gives them an emotional depth to the cooler Capricorn Aquarius facade. There's another thing you want to look at between your compatibility charts. There are several, but another important primary planetary aspect that you want to look at, or planetary placement, I should say, that you want to look at. And I'm going to talk about this at the end of the video, so stay tuned, watch the compatibility, and at the very end I'll explain to you how to find If your sun compatibility isn't great, there's another thing you can look at that will indicate whether or not the two of you are going to have long-lasting happiness together, or if it's going to be sort of a no-win battle, okay? All right, let's get on to our sun signs, and please leave me comments if you have questions, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Aries. Aries are our people born March 21st to April 19th. This is the first sign in the zodiac. These people are born during the time of the year when we're moving from the wintertime into the spring. So there's a vitality. There is an outgoing movement of energy, just like a plant would be blooming, a tulip would pop up through the soil. That's sort of the same thing that I see with an Aries. They're dynamic, they're outwardly focused, passionate, they need fuel, and they are fighters. Now, Aries also, these are the independent soldiers of the zodiac. They're our protagonists. They're the first person, the individual setting out on this journey of the zodiac. And as you move through the different zodiac signs, you'll see how this journey progresses. Self-starters like Aries, a lot of times they're perfectly comfortable going it alone. They're quite comfortable in leadership roles. They prefer to be in leadership roles. And so partnerships sometimes for Aries can be a little tricky. While they crave it, that's human nature to desire closeness and warmth and affection from other people. Aries sometimes don't always know how to go about getting it. They can be a little bit combative and a little what's the word, scratchy, in their relationships. But overall, these are brave, inspiring, self-starting, innovative, wonderful people that they just require a partner with some patience, and a partner who also is willing to be just as passionate and fiery as they are, but maybe perhaps a little bit more grounded. On the shadow side of Aries, we do have an individual who can be a little self-centered. They can be a little like the fool from the tarot deck, stepping off the cliff while the dog is barking. Don't go that way, They can sometimes be overly optimistic, or they can perhaps, instead of planning, they just want to jump into something and get going, and quite impulsive, okay? They can be a little difficult to teach at times. And they can sometimes lack the emotional tact that is required in love relationships and just general interpersonal relating. But if you have patience with an Aries, they are not the type to hold a grudge. They will usually kind of, they've let it out and then they're good after. So typically they're quite forgiving, and they have this childlike nature to them where it's almost a naivete and an innocence. They don't really mean anything by it. They just sometimes, like I said, they're not necessarily easy to teach, and so they have to kind of do things over and over again until they figure them out. Aries in love. These are individuals, right? They like to make the first move. Aries prefers being the one doing the chasing, at least initially. Even Aries females, with an Aries female, they can sometimes be accused of being too direct or too forward with men. In our culture, at least, I'm here in the United States, in Western culture, traditionally men were the ones who would take that lead role. So female Aries sometimes can be accused of being ball busters or bitches or too brave or too headstrong, or these things. And I say bold to that. I think that Aries we need Aries men and women. These are the ones that are the brave, courageous individuals that will go for something. Now, in love, they need passion. They need passion, they need sex. They're a very physical sign, and they actually need fights, believe it or not. And when I say fights, I don't mean, out and out emotional drama, but they like a little bit of a little bit of a tension or friction in their relationships. They need that. If there was someone who doesn't really push back or lean back against them or was always pleasing them, they'll get annoyed and they'll get bored. And you don't want an annoyed, bored Aries, because you won't have them for long. They will be out of there, okay? Aries expectations in love. Because they're so passionate, they give the passionate spontaneously, freely, just whenever they want to. They're not the most dependable, they're going to do it when they want to do it, unless they have a lot of earth and other things in their chart. And even then, they kind of have to be the boss about when they're going to express their love. You can't really boss an Aries around. They can be this sort of childlike. They can be a little bit selfish, where they want all of their partner's love and attention, but they don't really have a problem with flirting or this kind of thing with other people, and nothing is meant by it. But they they need to have their freedom, but they also need to know that they are number one, that there's no one else in their partner's life. Aries' biggest fear, and this goes for all the zodiac signs, you look at their strength, and that's always tells you where their biggest fear is. With an Aries, you do have a bold, brave, enterprising individual, okay? But on the inside, they're like a little kid. The reason they're bold and brave is because it just doesn't occur to them that there's going to be an issue with them just striking it out and doing their thing and saying what they think. And, you know, they haven't, it's almost like their soul hasn't had enough experience, it hasn't been battered around enough to have sort of learned this lesson. So their biggest fear is actually they're quite vulnerable on the inside. This is like a little kid on the inside, and really what they really want is love, affection, warmth, and belonging. And I suppose it's what most of us want, but because Aries puts on this whole facade of being brave and independent and not needing anyone, you sort of just assume they really are not needing anyone, but that's actually quite incorrect. So anyone who can recognize the innocence in an Aries and can give them their space to be themselves, but also that needs them. The person that is emotionally brave enough to say to an Aries, I need your bravery and courage to keep me safe, to protect me. That is a way to tap into the part of the Aries that, yes, the part that's vulnerable, but they can project that onto you. It's a way for them to protect in an indirect way their own inner vulnerabilities, okay? So it's a little trick. Sagittarius. Sagittarius suns are born from November 22nd through December 21st. This is our zodiac sign ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is a planet that in astrology we associate with expansion, growth, optimism. It's a benefic, good energy. All right. So Sagittarius types, we've got a fire sign. I think of them as initially, you know, you've got the archer, which is the centaur, you know, shooting the arrow. I like to think of, I simplify it, it's just horses playing around, you know, horses playing in a field with each other. Sagittarius energy does have this carefree, spirited, natural, authentic, genuine playfulness to it. There is you know, they can be a little outspoken. They kind of say what they think many times. They can be crude even, or like a little lacking in refinement, so to speak. Like they're just really natural. But ultimately, Sagittarius is this personality type that's very optimistic. They're forward-leaning. They like to think about the journey. They like to think about the stories that they'll write on this journey. You know, they want their fire sign, so they need new fuel and new experiences. They traditionally, this ninth house is the Sagittarius house. This has to do with travel and the wisdom of the world around us. So you have people who a lot of times are interested in self-help or like improving themselves, being authentic and true to themselves and not self-betraying and that kind of thing. In love and in romance with Sagittarius as well, because there's this natural approach they take to romance and sexuality. You can have someone who's quite libidinous in a sense, I suppose, but has a very healthy sex life. You know, someone who can be known as kind of like a player, but not like the way that maybe a Gemini or an air sign might be thought of as a player, where it's these mind games. It's more just they bounce around, you know, and they have multiple interests, and they can spread themselves a little bit thinly sometimes. So that Sagittarius is something they can be known for. Your high-functioning Sagittarius suns, you're going to have someone who's genuine, open, authentic. They are growth-oriented. They're optimistic. They like to try new things. There's generosity there, like you have with a Leo. They're laid back. They've got an easygoing naturalness to them, even if it's someone really important, like a celebrity or something, or someone who you might think is really attractive and might be quite full of themselves. They'll have like a self-deprecating manner to them. They'll get it. They'll know that they won't want to feel like they're better than you, so they'll want to bring themselves to the same level as you because they want it to be fun and playful and have everybody, they've got this quality to them where they like to coach people and bring people up. So they don't want to bring you down. They want to, bring you up. They are thought of as the teacher, the guru, the guide. They enjoy spreading things around that they've learned, and they enjoy conversation. They've got a great sense of humor, and they give a lot of freedom in their relationships to their partner. They give it and they expect it in return. They have an optimism to them where they just trust that things will work out the way they're supposed to work out, and so they're open to that. Low functioning Sagittarius. Now remember, this is when we're dealing with a pure Sagittarius. Let's say we had a perfectly pure Sagittarius. They can sometimes be overly optimistic. They take risks. They'll take some risks and gambles that could be a little bit, in hindsight, they might think, I should maybe have thought through that a little bit before being so spontaneous and jumping into it. They can be very go with the flow, like to go with the flow, where they can, unless they've got a lot of earth. If you've got a Sagittarius with a lot of earth in their chart, like on their moon, or an earthy placement for that Sagittarius sun, you're going to have someone that's pretty, they can have a hard time finding direction and focus, because this is a mutable sign after all. They can be sort of dreamers and have all these different projects that they're like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and they can't just like focus it all in one direction. They're the opposite of Gemini. It's a Gemini issue as well. They can be a little bit commitment phobic, because to be a wild horse galloping around, if you are pinned up in a corral, you're no longer a wild horse galloping around. So in order to make that make it work for them, they have to feel like instead of it being a corral that they're partnered with, that they're partnered with another wild horse that they're galloping with, So you're both free to go your own directions, but, you're ultimately going to come back together, because these are horses. They're a herd animal. They need each other, okay? That's Sagittarius. They also can be quite flirtatious. It's that generosity of spirit that they have to them. They can they just really enjoy the interchange between the sexes. So that can make partners who are prone to being jealous a little bit insecure or unsure. And then lastly, I would say they can be flaky. They can overpromise and underdeliver. That's kind of a Sagittarius, or someone who's got a strong Jupiter in their chart. That can be something that can happen. And when they promise it, they really mean it. They think they can do it. It's just they're not realistic sometimes with what they can actually accomplish. So they can get themselves in a little bind. All right, Sagittarius is in love. They are natural, playful, ardent, passionate. They express their love very openly, authentically. They wear their heart on their sleeve. They're not complicated in their love nature. I dated a triple Sagittarius, for 2.5 years, and it was wonderful. They are really open with their expression of love, whether it's through physical affection or just words. And there is it's that optimism. It's like this belief that ultimately the universe is benefic or something, and that things will all work out all right, or that they're benefic and that their intentions are benefic. So they assume the partners are as well. So they have the optimism and this eagerness for the love romance to sort of blossom, but they're simple too. They're pretty simple in what they want in romance. They really just want good sex, go do fun things together, spontaneity. Stopping them from doing something will be like, they won't like that. And that includes, if they're making sexual advances at you, if you're just like, oh, I'm too tired, they'll be, boring. They won't appreciate that. Okay, Sagittarius expectations in love. They want a partner they can grow with. So this is everything from travel together, create a story together. If they've got a lot of water in their chart, they'll want to grow family together with you. They'll want to laugh. Like Sagittarius is more than any of the other signs, I think of laughter and jokes and just like crude humor. But they want a romance that is fun and playful and moving forward, and where there's a lot of freedom to roam about, as I said earlier. They also like a partner who is positive, has a good attitude, who is also forward-leaning. They don't want to have to clean up your messes. I mean, they will if they have to, but they really don't. They don't really love to have to do that. So they prefer a partner that's optimistic and happy and excitable, and ready for anything. So Sagittarius' biggest fear, it would be similar to Gemini, I would say. Except for it kind of comes from a different place. So Sagittarius is worried about being trapped. The thought of being stuck in a relationship where there's not the things that they need to feel passionate and excited and like their life is growing and moving forward. If they feel like they've got a partner who's possessive, controlling, demanding, jealous, those are huge turnoffs. Someone who's emotionally really clingy and needs a lot of validation from the Sagittarius, that's quite different from the way that they're built, and they will feel like, why are you making a big deal over that? So their biggest fear is that, being stuck with a wet blanket. That doesn't sound like that'd be fun for any of us, but for Sagittarius in particular, they don't like this idea of being, it's like those wild horses being stuck out in a rainstorm or something. They're just like, oh, get it. Where's the shelter I can hide under? Get me away from this rain, you know? So you'll put out their fire quickly. So their fear is, yes, their fear is being trapped. Let them know they have long, invisible reign that they can run as far in any direction as they want as long as they come back. Barn happy, remember the saying of a barn happy horse. Horses like to leave the barn, but they almost always, if you're riding horses, they gallop back to the barn rather than wanting to walk, because the barn's where it's warm and there's food and there's water and, you know, sugar cubes. So just keep that barn filled with all of those good things and your Sag will be running back to you. Okay. You put an Aries and a Sagittarius together, you've got a mischievous, fun, playful, boisterous, loud, opinionated couple. So this is a nice combination. They're both fire signs. They naturally, you know, these two signs trine one another, meaning there's an easy flow of energy. They both come from this place of wanting and needing new experiences and new fuel and needing to be moving. They don't like to sit still. So they complement each other. That will be attractive. What will repel these two? You know, I mean, both of them are quite flirtatious. This, to me, it's interesting that a lot of times the signs that trine each other, I almost feel like they're better for even friendships a lot of times, and not necessarily romantic partnerships, unless you have other things underlying the other planets in the chart that would suggest that these two would like have some other compatibility emotionally. But on the outside, it's just going to be a really busy, active couple that is going. You know, the one, I mean, they're both going to say what they think, so they might hurt each other's feelings inadvertently. Aries would say what they think in a way, if they're mad, that can be mean, and that Sagittarius would hurt their feelings. And the Sagittarius can say things sometimes just like they just say what they think. They just are very open with their language and their communication, and so they might say something that offends the Aries ego. So these little pricky things can happen, but for the most part, it's a nice combination. Okay, long-term interaction. This is an enthusiastic, daring couple. There's a lot of, they're both kind of growth-oriented. You know, Aries is always looking for the next challenge, they're always forward-focused. And Sagittarius is also this growth-oriented, optimistic energy. So they come together and they're a couple that, just like Leo and Aries, you know, they get a lot of things done together. At least they have a lot of ideas. I should amend that. Not necessarily getting them done. They start a lot of projects. They would start a lot of things together. They'd be really great in business as far as just coming up with ideas together. You just would need someone else to sort of implement the plan. So specific areas of conflict and harmony. Sagittarius is known for being very optimistic and even overly naively optimistic, and perhaps promising things to the Aries that they then don't follow through on. And Aries just doesn't have time for that. Aries if you say you're going to do something, do it, and if not, don't. Why'd you say you're going to do it if you're not going to do it? You know, like if they say they're going to do something, they do it right then. So they don't understand this quality of like filling someone's head up with bullshit and then not following through on it. Just doesn't make sense to them. You know, but other than that, you know, long-term harmony between these two is good. They just need some grounding. They need some sort of, again, earthy or watery or even air in between the two of them. I would really say earth to get them to take action on something and actually follow through on it. Like they'll take action, they'll start something. It's the following through that they'll suffer, that they'll struggle with. Long-term commitment between these two. Also, you need some earth to really see these two stay together and not sort of burn really brightly and then fade very equally as to burn brightly quickly and then to fade equally as quickly. How others will see this relationship, they'll see it as boisterous and loud and fun and playful, and like, you know, this is two peas in a pod, I'd say.